Dramatic fade to black as Dota fails to load for the first time. There we go, guys. Welcome back to the NA qualifiers here for GESC Thailand. As you can see, it's going to be OpTic Gaming going up against compLexity, and this is actually going to be the only match on the day, which is really good for whoever wins this, because whoever wins this faces up against VGJ Storm. But that match, which would have been played right after this, got rescheduled to tomorrow. I think at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know, something along. I could check. I'm not going to. But not having to play a best of 5 up against Storm is incredible. So they actually get a little bit of a break. It's going to mean that today's a little bit shorter, but that's fine because these two teams have been showing up. compLexity, for sure, going for more so aggressive strats than not. And OpTic, stumbling a little bit up against Storm, but man, that's still just because Storm are just looking almost invulnerable in what they're doing. It is not... I think it's a little bit too soon to say that Storm are looking like the clear favorites, even though they are currently sitting in the finals. But it just seems like their playstyle is really clean. They're really comfortable, and they have a lot of direction. For compLexity, they are pretty good in their direction. We have seen them stumble a little bit in their execution. Like, they have the draft, they have their plan, but then it's like, they can't quite execute their plan as much as they would really like. In OpTic, I feel like they've been having a couple of issues with their lanes. CCNC has been left alone, mostly on this hero, actually, this Death Prophet, and he's been having a little bit of difficulty. And usually that's what OpTic's plan kind of is. Their general play style is to make sure that first, PyCat gets farmed, second, 33 gets experience. Anything after that, man, like, it's all up in the air. And usually there's just not enough room for the movements of PPD and or Zai to make sure that all 3 cores are getting a lot. So CCNC is kind of the one that gets the shaft, and having him, like, not only not getting support from his allies, but also just in kind of mediocre matchups, it's kind of tough for the OpTic side to function in some of those games that we've seen them in. So I would like to see OpTic, as much as they can, try to give CCNC a little bit more as far as aid, but as I said earlier, compLexity, they've been running these aggressive strats. They have been picking up the Chen very frequently, and to some extent, this is also a pick that OpTic are going to be very likely to pick themselves. Chen DP is pretty much just OpTic bread and butter right there, so acting as a ban as well, and to some extent the Sand King on top of that. I feel like 33 has only been playing the Sand King. Like, they just first pick Sand King, OpTic, whenever they can, and it's always in the hands of 33. But not going to be the case this time. compLexity will have the Chen, they'll have the Sand King, definitely potential for early game aggression, and normally I would say Death Prophet could offer you very much so the same potential. The way OpTic play normally isn't going to be the rally around that Death Prophet type of style. At least not for the early stages, for the levels 1 through 10. Death Prophet is usually just going to do her own thing, and then once the team fights start breaking out, once there's kind of like 3v3s floating around, then Death Prophet is more likely to join the fray. I think someone just edited my title to capitalize OpTic properly. Whoever did that, thank you. There's a capital T in OpTic Gaming. I don't know, I guess there's a capital L in compLexity also. Why? Why do they capitalize randomly? I have no idea. But Bounty Hunter, Visage, these still very popular heroes that are still in the pool. We have seen these teams just kind of in general steer clear of the Naga Siren. And I haven't really been paying super close attention to what's going on in the other tournaments. Haven't seen a lot of Naga Siren there. From time to time, for sure. She is still a very viable pick. But I'm not sure if that's because she's just being ignored or if that's just because she's being banned. It's impossible to tell once you get into the game and actually start watching real Dota instead of this ban screen. So, yeah, the Naga Siren is definitely still an option. But for OpTic, they ran Troll yesterday with the Death Prophet, I think. No, it's actually Troll Viper. But PyCat, he plays Troll, he plays Phantom Lancer. It's going to be banned out, at least this time. Terrorblade, a hero that compLexity definitely do have to worry about. They don't have the pick right after. They'll ban out the Lifestealer instead, which is, I would say, just as dangerous for perhaps a different reason. But TB for PyCat is something that he does play very well. Ultimately, you could also just go for a Juggernaut. And usually you're not going to be too upset about that. But usually they're also going to be holding their Pycat pick till a little bit later. OpTic still looking for a little bit of a support pickup here. Witch Doctor, absolutely incredible up against that Chen. You can also just give that Rubik into that kind of poor role, cut off his farm, and pick up something a little bit more aggressive. Problem being is that Sand King is like pretty much the perfect hero that they would want to have on their own side for that role. And other 4 positions kind of have a difficult time up against Chen, with the exception being that Bounty Hunter that's already banned out, who can just kind of chill next to Chen the entire time and mess with his creeping, at least get tracking of him. Other 4 positions typically don't do that. Enabling Death Prophet. Oh, Tusk is still in the pool. Yeah, Tusk is still in, sick with a Death Prophet. That's going to be a Coddle, something a little bit different. So, foregoing that Tusk, instead for that Coddle, it's going to be a little bit of an anticipation pick from OpTic. I mean, they have seen how compLexity have been playing. Already with a Chen, you expect them to be playing aggressively, so getting that counter push, very, very nice, as compLexity respond with the Disruptor. Maybe going into a little bit of a different direction here. This is looking like an off-lane Sand King for Moo, as Chen and Disruptor are going to be played by Z-Freak and KitTrack. So for compLexity side of things, not really the most aggressive strat around this Chen. Of course, you don't really want to be pushing a super late game with the Sand King unless your other 2 cores are like really, really heavy hitting. Like, any carry hero with like a really powerful mid lane hero like OD who can scale into the late game. That's where an offlane Sand King can really do well. But unless you have like super powerful heroes coming out of those core roles outside of that SK, usually you want to be a little bit more aggressive, at least on the tempo side of things. Still, this pick of a Disruptor is a good source of catch for compLexity together with the Sand King. Will enable them to start those fights if they want to pick up someone like a Terrorblade, as we have a little bit of something different from OpTic. Looks like 33 is going to be on a Centaur this time. Interesting. This is a hero that is very, very difficult to deal with as Chen. Like, you just struggle to gank him. Usually those type of heroes are like those super mobile heroes, the Pucks of the world, who you just can't gank because they'll just orb away. But Centaur has just so much HP, and Chen's creeps, unless they get like some really sick body blocking in, will really not do all that well if he's going to make rotations into that lane. And ganking Death Prophet is kind of difficult for similar reasons, so OpTic going with some very, very tanky cores, maybe running dry on damage, but again, this is what they do. Leave Pycat's pick for last, and really, if Pycat ends up playing, again, like a Juggernaut type hero, that's fine. He could also just do, something a little bit with a little more range. Try to get that positioning-based game, and with a Centaur, Death Prophet making the space, you could make that work as well. So throw something like a Luna in there, and it's maybe not the safest game for Luna, but, when is it ever safe? Or even a Morphling. For compLexity, seeing the Centaur War Runner should concern them insofar as they don't really have any great ways of killing the Centaur or really pressuring him in lane just yet, simply because they haven't picked up Chessie's hero. But there are several heroes that you can pick up that will have a decent time up against Centaur. Disruptor, really not great at killing Centaur as far as damage is concerned. Absolute all-star as far as control is concerned. Glimpse is incredible up against Centaur, and Field works against anyone, I guess. But definitely need a hero that can actually play the lane kind of assertively. Centaur War Runner is a hero that you can not really harass and expect to come ahead in the lane because of that return. And if you are going to be a soft, generico melee hero up against that Centaur War Runner lane who might be going with the Keeper of the Light, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. The Juggernaut's going to be picked up from compLexity, acting again as a pseudo-ban up against OpTic, but first and foremost is a hero that can pressure the Centaur War Runner as far as killing him off. So that spin is going to be quite nice as far as threatening that Centaur. Together with the Disruptor and Chen's control, it's at least possible now for compLexity to make that happen. In between those spins, though, if the Juggernaut doesn't have any mana for whatever reason, then Centaur is still going to be really difficult to deal with. Juggernaut can't really harass Centaur War Runner to the point where Centaur is super worried about his lane, especially if Coddle is going to be going with him, which or Rubik, both of whom are going to do pretty much the same in that lane up against that Juggernaut. I don't know if compLexity can really switch that up either. Maybe juggle that Sand King's lane a little bit, try to match the SK versus Centaur. I could see that doing quite well. But definitely a difficult hero to deal with. Mid lane, the matchup for compLexity going to be versus that Death Prophet. Definitely can go for pretty much anything, I would say. DK is a hero that OpTic will maybe struggle to kill off. They don't really have all that much damage. Again, Centaur Warrunner is very, very utility heavy. Very, very tanky, but damage-wise, he just doesn't do it. Death Prophet, especially the way OpTic play around her, is usually not going to be, you know, your absolute terror of a hero, as maybe if it was played by another team, would be a little bit more so on the top of the net worth chart and getting a lot more aid, but not really from OpTic's point of view. So if compLexity pick up a DK, go for these pushes with the Chen early on, they could definitely start the snowball rather early, and I could see them getting a lot done. That's a Shadow Fiend who is probably going to do some very similar things. The difference, though, is that there is going to be, though not much damage on OpTic, more than enough to kill off an SF. SF is just, his tank ability is nowhere near that of the DK. Yet still they offer you those very similar timings. Shadow Fiend is going to be in a little bit of trouble sometimes, does have to fear those Rubik rotations, but for the most part up against the DP, should be doing just fine in that matchup as OpTic grabbed the Void last. This is an interesting selection here from OpTic. Faceless Void and Centaur, these heroes don't really do great with one another. There's not really much synergy there. And Rubik, Coddle, these aren't really your Disruptors and Witch Doctors, these heroes that can just dump damage into the Chronosphere. Keeper of the Light, I guess, can illuminate, and that's kind of nice. But Faceless Void, yeah, I'm not really sure about that. Like they do definitely need a little bit of kind of initiation / team fight from the OpTic side of things. Centaur as the sole hero to start engagements is rather underwhelming. So that in that regard, Faceless Void isn't terrible, but at the same time, he's going to be going up against Sand King, Disruptor, especially this Disruptor, a hero that just makes Faceless Void's life absolutely miserable. And in this match, but versus Juggernaut, Omni Slash is something that you can time walk away from, but it's so easy for compLexity just to Burrow Strike Omni Slash or Static Storm Omni Slash, and then you're just dead as Faceless Void because your health pool isn't really going to be that high. Like, what items do Faceless Voids usually go for? What's the first health item they get? I don't know. What is the first health item they get? I guess, like, Power Treads, maybe. If you consider that a health item. I don't know if you would. But, like, usually it's Madness. Sometimes you see Battle Fury. Sometimes you see Shadow Blades. These are all just really kind of paper-thin items. SNY, not really a Faceless Void item. So his health pool usually stays pretty darn low. Not really a huge fan of this Faceless Void. But if OpTic are able to get this Keeper of the Light to a decent degree of power, you always have to watch out for these Aghanim Scepter timings. Faceless Void is a hero that can play around those timings as well. Just wait for those Chronospheres and wait for that to line up with the vision and the heal ability you get from the Aghanim Scepter Illuminate. Yeah, and Faceless Void can participate in those engagements, especially if he does not get insta-killed, which is really useful. But in this particular game, OpTic won't really be able to rally around a Keeper of the Light and kind of play around those timings as much as they ordinarily would. In fact, I usually would see Zai playing the Coddle. At least the times I've seen Coddle from OpTic, I think Zai has been playing it. So PPG, of course, you know, he can play the Coddle. It's just a little bit of a difference here. As honestly, I'd rather have Zai Rubik on my team. Zai Rubik is definitely a thing. That's definitely very scary. Especially if he's going to be roaming around. Helping out a DP and Centaur in those lanes that telekinesis, really high value. Kitrak is going to blow the smoke, and OpTic, they have no idea. That's not something you see very often, a hero kind of hiding in this corner. And it worked, man. It worked to blow the smoke. That probably would have timed out soon anyway. So, whatever. Let's look at these lanes set up for OpTic. It looks like Moo might be camping out in this bottom lane. Chen probably will be giving him that help. Yeah, Chessie top, Limp mid as the Jug and Shadow Feed. Nothing too out of the ordinary here from the OpTic, from the compLexity side of things. On OpTic, Pycat will be going towards that top lane. It looks like Chessie finds Zai, immediately burns the spin. And that's going to do a lot of good damage, though very expensive in the mana pool department. Probably worth it. This is going to mean that they're going to be less likely to do those creep pulls, you know, from here down, those things. As expected, CCNC is going to be playing that DP over in the mid lane. Lift up into a Siphon on someone like a Shadow Fiend is definitely a feasible way of getting those kills. That is, if OpTic decide to actually do that. With this lane setup, they are going to have the Centaur going up against that, not Sand King, actually. Chessie's going to swap in Centaur with PPD. We'll have a decent time up against this Juggernaut, simply because this is happening on the Radiant safe lane. If this same exact lane setup of Centaur versus Juggernaut, or Centaur Coddle versus Juggernaut was happening over here, it would be really, really bad for OpTic, because Spin would actually be a useful tool. This lane is so short, like, creeps are going to stay here most of the time, so, like, you can't really spin for that much length of the lane. That means 33 is going to have the time of his life. He's just going to be able to bully the Juggernaut, kind of keep him away, threaten that stomp. And though Centaur doesn't really have many stomps to spare, oh. Do you think he is stomping? He is stomping. I wonder if Chessie is going to jam that Blade Fury or if he's just going to take this damage. This damage is going to be pretty sizable to stomp. Oh, he does land the stomp. Here comes the Illuminate. He's going to have to spin that one off. But that's the threat. That's the threat that Chessie faces, and that's the threat that will be increased by quite a large margin once the Double Edge comes in. Then you don't have to spend mana for it. You just spend a little bit of health, and you absolutely crush the Juggernaut's health pool. And mana actually isn't that much of an issue either, because he's just with this Coddle. So Chessie's in a really tough spot on that bottom lane. Of course, Moo is going to have a absolute fantastic time in this scenario. Sand King versus Faceless Void. Rubik is here, but Rubik can't really do all that much to swing this lane in favor of the Void, because Void just doesn't have any offensive power. Unless he's just getting all the bashes in the world, which currently he doesn't have. So good luck doing that. So this lane setup for compLexity is definitely going to cost Chessie quite a bit. But in the effort to stop Faceless Void with this setup, this is what they really have to do if they want to stop Faceless Void. Like, if that's the priority, this is the strat. Also looking at Z-Freak on that Chen roaming around. So far has just been doing the couple of creep send back over in the bottom lane. Has grabbed himself a Hellbear, but ganking this bottom lane is really difficult. You can, in certain situations, go and help Limp over in this mid lane. Currently, the SF is doing pretty much evenly versus CCNC. But as the raises come up, the threat is going to increase. 33 gets jumped, though, does just butcher that poor Hellbear. Z-Freak's going to haste himself away, and in the meantime, Zai in a rough spot here. There's a Burrow Strike, and that means Zai's dead. I don't even think they need the Burrow Strike. He just can't escape. He has no boots. He's going to turn around for one more right click, but that controls just a little bit of movement speed differential there. We'll give the Sand King first blood, and as a Faceless Void in that off lane, there's just absolutely no scenario where he can help. Unfortunately, that Rubik is just caught in the wrong neighborhood. And speaking of the wrong neighborhood, CCNC pushed so far up in this lane. In fact, on the other high ground, he's going to get a Siphon onto Limp, but this is okay for the Shadow Fiend, because that's resources out of CCNC's pocket. And they are setting up for a wraparound here. Here comes the Chen, although the Centaur's going to be spotted. That's smoke. Didn't quite last long enough. Took a really long path there. I think he went like here and checked here before he went up. But the DP's doing just fine. We also see 33 absolutely rolling in this lane. 2 points in that hoof stomp. Looks like he's altering his build a little bit because he does have that chakra magic with him. Double Edge is not something that the keeper can heal up. Not yet. Not yet. Maybe that'll come. Chessie's having a tough time. Can't really afford to get close to this wave. We do have a little bit of a wraparound onto Limp. Zai does have only level 2, though. Lift up into a Siphon. That's not that dangerous, having this little mana on the DP. So I do like this idea from OpTic. This is definitely a good move, especially on the 4-minute mark when Darkness falls. But it doesn't seem like the mana situation, and even the health situation for DP is really conducive to going in for an aggressive play. And now that the smoke is worn out, he's sitting under an obs. Not anything you can do about that. You still have Z-Freak on the roam. He's going to grab yet another Hellbear. PPD is going to run into him. Now this is the true battle of the century. Chen with no creeps versus Coddle. But he's just been farming. Not really many opportunities for this Chen to make any sort of kill blows. Can't really go for the Faceless Void. Ganking him as Chen is very, very difficult. And Chessie doesn't really have the resources to help out should an aggressive attempt be made on the bottom lane. So Z-Freak's kind of stuck roaming around to no real end. He is still going to go towards his bottom lane. Maybe set up for an attempt here. Onto PPD it's possible, but this Juggernaut is really, really worse for the wear. He's going to pop that healing ward, and now he has no mana. So there's a lot of time where Z-Freak is kind of just applying this really passive pressure. Limp in the meantime, getting siphoned. One more swarm is just out of range, I think. I think otherwise would have gotten the kill. This poor Hellbear, man. He can't do anything. Coddle's so quick. 385 movement speed versus the 320 of Hellbear. Of course, Chessie only has the brown boots right now. I mean, the CS-wise, he's actually still getting a lot. But really for the lanes from OpTic as far as what the cores are gaining, it's pretty much perfect. Every core is getting pretty much exactly what they want, despite going into lane matchups where you would assume they'd be under a little bit more pressure. Like this mismatch here of 400 gold of Moo versus Pycat is not that bad for OpTic. Of course, the Sand King is going to have, you know, his Soul Ring, his Blink Dagger a little bit faster. There's nothing really that OpTic can do about that. But they are still getting a decent amount on this Faceless Void, so everyone is going to have items in this game. Because all these cores are actually just like trading CS perfectly. These supports have had not really the ability to make any sort of significant impact here. As a Coddle, you kind of expect that. As the Rubik, he's been trying. As the Chen, he's been trying. But it just doesn't seem like there's any opportunities. So it's just going to be 6 minutes of just really passive farming. This Juggernaut's farm is definitely a concern for the complexity side. He's not doing terribly, but a Juggernaut that's behind, really, really hard to get back into it. You can make a couple of rotations, use your spin, use your Omni Slash, kind of play like a Terrorblade or a Luna. But it is also, you know, you're front-loading all of your damage into just those two tools. And if you can't get the kill, or even if you die for it, like use an Omni Slash, get the kill, then die, you're not really super happy about that. You need to be able to survive those engagements. And for that, you need a little bit of stats. Drums, phase boots, power treads even. Not quite there just yet. Why the hell are they sacking the Juggernaut? They're sacking the Jug so that Moo can have a really great time. And he is having an absolute fantastic time. Unfortunately, doesn't have eyes on Pycat. His smoke is going to break, so he now knows that someone's up there. But the Sand King is level 6. Absolutely unpressured. Now, if the Sand King was up against that Centaur, you do quite a bit of harassment damage with that Caustic. And that might be adding up, but I'm not really sure if that's an overall net gain for them. Now the Sand King is level 7. It's time to work. The Centaur, though, has a barrier. He already puts it up the spin, doing no damage, therefore. He's completely surrounded, but he's just going to walk out of there, or rather run out of there. And that is an unfortunate timing for complexity. As soon as Moo lands that TP, the same exact time, 33 picks up his hood. So that means he's pretty much unkillable to these type of heroes, and they will find Keeper of the Light level 3 versus that level 7 Sand King is quite the mismatch, but Pycat's going to get jumped, or jump on Kit Track rather, Chronosphere, and get the kill on top lane. Just an even 1-for-1 on the supports. Yeah, I mean, again, that's a really smart move for complexity. Get Moo at level 7, immediately rotate out, try to get a kill, but first of all, you're trying to kill off a Centaur. Dude is fat as hell. 4.3 strength gain is kind of broken. It's a little bit powerful, but with that magic resistance as well, like no chance for a Sand King to make a significant impact on a Centaur. He can make a significant impact on Keeper. He's trying to run Intercept right now, but I don't think the angle is quite good enough for Moo. He will find himself in the mid lane. Burrow Strike with 3 raises, level 4 in that. A chance, but you really need just perfect positioning. But now that you see this rotation, put Chessie in this top lane, where up against this Faceless Void, things aren't really that dangerous for the Jug. And have Moo, I was going to say roam, but it looked like he's going to make his home on this bottom lane. Definitely putting this Sand King on the roam. Trying to apply some pressure towards mid seems like the best thing to do. Chessie's going to get lifted up. Omni Slash onto Zai. Immediately kills him off. And there you go. Use the Omni Slash, get kills, and crucially, he doesn't die. And now picks up the power treads. I mean, it's only a kill on a Rubik. It's not anything he's going to write home about. Dear Mom, I got a Rubik kill today. Are you proud of me? Your son, Juggernaut. But as long as you keep using this Omni Slash whenever it's on cooldown, you should be a happy Jug. Or a happier Jug. Got kind of an empty movement from CCNC as well, trying to look for that kill. He is still up on top with the Exorcism, so it won't be an empty movement. He'll just pop those ghosties and go to work. You know, a little bit of pressure from compLexity over in mid, but Coddle's stopping any attempts there, so not really much of an opportunity. There's now Disruptor. He does have 2 points in the Thunderstrike, gone for the harassment build. Not really what he wants right now. Pycat ducking into the trees. I think they did see the ghost disappear, so they will know that the Death Prophet teleported out. And Pycat is pretty safe here. CCNC actually teleported towards the mid lane, where this tower was pretty healthy. Now isn't. This is an Exorcism Catapult push. And it is very, very quickly going to fall here. Creep Wave as well, just gone. Shadow Fiend does get the tower deny, however. That is rather impressive. But OpTic still take that tower down. And maybe now it's time for PPD to try to get a little bit of cash money. You know, Zai is usually going to be playing the little more of a farming support role, but just with these heroes, you'd expect PPD to just end up with a lot more gold than Zai. He doesn't really have to work for his gold. Zai does. He's going to get this tome. He's going to try to feed that Rubik, that level 6, as fast as possible. You're going up against a high-level Sand King, so having that spell steal is definitely going to make a difference here. Able to steal Epicenter, you actually do get a good kind of Chronosphere combo. Or even just Burrow Strike. Just Burrow Strike into the Chronosphere with your buddy. Move. Maybe trying to set up for an Epicenter out of the trees. Dire Scan, Radiant Scan, I think they're stacked up. One of them was red, I couldn't tell which one. I still just want to get this move, the Sand King, this Blink Dagger. This is compLexity kind of hitting a hiccup in their timings, however. And the Chen hasn't really had a significant impact in this game so far. He is level 5, and he's working with quite the goon squad here. But overall, they would expect that the aggressive power of SF would at least be able to you know, put some serious pressure on that mid lane. And it's his lane that was pressured the entire time. Opting for farm on the Sand King as opposed to that Jug means that they have to make something happen with this Blink Dagger, otherwise their laning decision is pretty much going to result into no yield for them. So with this Blink Dagger, looking for Pycat perhaps. There's the Blink, Burrow Strike, Static Storm is going to be there, and with the raises, they will take down the Faceless Void and Zai, who also just stumbled in. Chessie was able to put him in the blender. Off in the bottom lane though, the Chen got jumped on by the Centaur Warrunner. His creeps as well, at least one of them gonna fall. Nice 2-for-1 for compLexity, and that is what they need to do. Use the Sand King and try to ride him to a Juggernaut advantage. Finds 2 with the Burrow Strike. Actually, no, we only found 1. 33 got yanked in after the Burrow Strike, and now Moo did not expect that Centaur to come in that quickly. Although with the field, they will be able to disengage away. 33 has a Blink Dagger. He does not have a Stomp. Pycat has a Chronosphere, though. He's going to get teleported all the way back to the fountain. So this Chronosphere not going to do all that much except for let CCNC get into position. They lets up the Juggernaut, but he's able to get the spin off. The Ghost damage, not enough with the Hand of God, will be saved. Kittrack will not be, though. He'll get glimpsed right back to his doom. Chronosphere for OpTic, only yielding that 1 kill. That is not what they wanted to see there. But that is just what Disruptor does. That's Disruptor through and through, man.
Is under attack. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
So OpTic's ultimates are down. compLexity can very easily go for Roche now, especially if they get this PPD kill. Burrow Strike a little bit too far there. Moo is going to take quite a bit of damage, but got heroes coming from the back, so PPD will fall. Moo is dusted. He does have a lot of backup here. 2 raises. And now Pycat, he actually doesn't have a time walk out. So he's just dead here, it looks like. Glimpse right back. Yeah, he is dead. He time walked into that. Man, if you time walk in and take 2 raises, you are a sad Faceless Void. That is for sure. So compLexity now off of those picks. This is going to ultimately justify their laning decisions, because all of these picks are happening because of this Sand King. Of course, everyone else just kind of rallying around him, so they'll take down this tower. Again, they can go for Roshan very easily. There's still a very long period of time where this Death Prophet does not have Exorcism. They have Chen creeps to tank. They have the Shadow Fiend and Juggernaut, both of whom can do damage. Seems like they think it might be a little bit too risky, but cooldown-wise, with no Chronosphere, no Exorcism, I don't know if there's anything to fear from going for Rosh. I mean, they have the Medallion also on the Chen. Honestly, a little bit surprised they're not going straight for Rosh. I guess they do have to tend to these lanes a little bit. Maybe opting for tier 1 towers instead. Definitely objectives that they can take and will be a lot less risky in taking. Like, if you try to go for Rosh and you get jacked up, that's bad. Like, you give Rosh to the enemies and things just turn to shit. But if you go for these tier 2 towers and fail, tier 1 towers and fail, then you just don't get them. Like, you may lose a couple heroes, but it's not like you give over a huge advantage to OpTic. compLexity making the safe play. As OpTic, they are starting to push out now with some ultimates coming back online. Still, Death Prophet, yeah, she has hers. And a Radiant scan is going to reveal a Sand King. You gotta assume this is either Kittrack or Moo. 33. Oh, the ghosts. The ghosts found him with the Centaur jump in. Moo is dead. Tier 2 going to be put into a blender as well. This Ghost Exorcism push, substantial. And we got the TP back from PPD. Is going to yank someone else in. This push is kind of just a half-hearted one. Over in top lane, tower does go down. Over in mid lane, Z-Freak starting to push that one out as well. But Chessie just trying to farm up that Battle Fury. Doesn't really want to be involved in any sort of huge pushing or fighting. If he had his Battle Fury or a level 2 Omni Slash, then he would be joining these fights. But seeing as though he has neither, this is a pretty weak point for a Juggernaut. So OpTic strike back to use their Exorcism, still have that Chronosphere. Pycat, I feel like he definitely needs that level 4 Time Walk. Get that that cooldown reduction. Not really farming the best right now. He is able to do quite a bit of damage thanks to that Mask of Madness, having maxed out Time Lock. But again, staying in that Chronosphere and actually hitting things, unless you get the perfect Chronosphere, is not exactly safe. You Mask of Madness, you start hitting things. If you get Omni Slashed, or if you get hit with a couple of raises, you gotta fall back. Or if you get hit with the Static Storm, you can't Time Walk out of it because you're berserked with the Mask of Madness. You're fully committed if you decide to Mask of Madness in there. Uh-oh, PPD is in a little bit of trouble. Glimpse right back. Okay, the Omni Slash didn't actually kill that Coddle. He has a point booster, that's why. But they still use the Omni Slash, get the kill, and now decide to go for Rosh. They do have the Static Storm. They did pull out Stampede. It does feel like that Chronosphere is just looming. Going for Roshan with the Chronosphere on the enemy's side still up is rather bold, especially with bottom lane pushing in. So this is an interesting decision for compLexity to do this now instead of a couple minutes ago. This tower is going to take some serious damage. No Exorcism, but no problem, man. I don't know. They definitely do have this in the bag. Again, Healing Ward making this very safe. Chen's got creeps to tank, and they do have the Medallion constantly being reapplied by Z-Freak. Bottom lane, push will be defended, it looks like. CCNC is free and clear. Ooh, Field almost went up in time. They do end up getting that Aegis. It looks like that was unpunished. But OpTic really aren't that strong now. They have a Solar Crest almost up on CCNC. They are just trying to rely on just spells. Try to get this counter push going to keep them in this game. PPD, though, he is going to get chased down. Boulder toss from the Mud Golem as 33 does jump in. Fails to hit that stomp onto Moo. And now they're kind of splitting their forces. Moo going to straight TP out. He should be fine. And yeah, he will. Yeah, OpTic really need to have a Chronosphere land on someone. Or just a hell of a lot of bashes on Jessie. That'll work, I guess. No Omni Slash in the jug, but it is level 2 at this point. Exorcism and Omni Slash now up. OpTic can take one fight. Ooh, can't quite find him. That's the problem here for OpTic, is that this is the type of team comp that absolutely needs their ultimates to fight. And compLexity, they do definitely get a lot stronger once they have, you know, the Omni Slash up, the Epicenter up. but it's not quite as much of a necessity. Plus, their big ultimate cooldowns, like Static Storm cooldown, isn't really that long. So they can fight pretty consistently. Complexity's decision to fight into OpTic is rather bold here. They really have to look for a deep initiation, but they don't have any vision. In fact, they're sitting under Radiant Obs. So Moo's movement is spotted. They are going to just walk in, take the tower. Still, Podcat is not really worth much offensively, unless he has his item. That's a Shadow Blade, so now he is worth something offensively. Now he can actually start considering joining these fights. And they definitely do need that source of control. Centaur initiation is clunky. Again, he's really tanky, but that's about it. CCNC. Oh, silence and then TP out. Easy.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Jesse does have that Battle Fury right now. More importantly, though, he has that level 2 Omni Slash. Which actually makes it a viable killing tool again compared to that level 1. They are just straight pushing this top lane. PPD Coddle. This is the best hero, support hero at least, to defend against this. Problem being, over here there's no vision for the Radiant, and Moo is, I think, not going to see the Coddle. It is darkness, mind you, so vision range not all that high. Tier 2 on the bottom lane will be finished off here as Coddle is going to do what he can here. Blinding Light, Illuminate's coming out, and maxed out Illuminate. And this push for complexity without having picked off that Coddle is going to cost them quite a bit. Bottom lane's being pushed with a siege creep. No one's teleporting back for it. They will send back the Sand King. They do get their tower. Yes, a little bit of pressure. The big deal off of this, though, is that OpTic didn't have to spend any cooldowns. They still have that Chronosphere. They still have that Exorcism.
Time is money.
And it looks like they are just okay kind of just sitting on this. I don't think they should be, though. It definitely feels like if they position themselves very aggressively, especially around this offensive observer they just placed, try to use some of those cooldowns, that'll get them in a really good spot. And they will do so now that they see a couple heroes still on top lane. Complexity have been chilling top for a very long time right now, and that means Moo is vulnerable. He does get lifted up, so his Blink Dagger will be cancelled. He'll drop right into a Chronosphere and a Siphon. Sand King is going to get hit with the Hand of God, but the TP of the Shadow Fiend immediately lifted up and now bumped down to the low ground as the ghosts tear him to shreds. Here comes Chessie. Omni Slash will be split and will bounce most into 33. Does nothing up against that Crimson Guard. He's going to try to go for Zai, but no one's on top of CCNC. The Siphon's still working away. Limb's forced to buy out, it looks like. And now CCNC, actually that was just the Aegis, will just do all the damage in the world with the Ghost. Pycat looking to get a bash on the Chessie. Will get sent back to the base as the Requiem is going to keep everyone from chasing. They do take down the Aegis of that Shadow Fiend. 2 other heroes to fall as well. That is a full duration Exorcism in the fight. And CCNC just gets full healed off of that.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And that's just that that one split second of vision there that PPD got on top lane. Sees a couple heroes on top, and then immediately makes that call. We can fight bottom lane because there's heroes on top lane. We don't have to worry about that. What do you get? Zai got spin. It's also very unfortunate there for the Juggernaut. This is physical damage, mind you. PPD. Uh-oh. Stampede countered by Yule Scepter. And looks like he probably is just dead here. Oh, he's trying to run, but glimpse back. Blinding Light is there. He's going to chuck out an Illuminate, but I don't think that's going to help. But yeah, Centaur with that Crimson Guard, man, gets so much additional armor. You don't get the damage block. I don't think that does anything versus the Omni Slash hits. I don't know if there's enough attack speed on this Jug to get those extra hits in between yet. But still, like, you're Omni Slashing 2,000 HP worth of Horseman. Not gonna work out in your favor. With 10 armor as well. That's a decent amount. 33 will blink out straight to Limp. Takes 2 shots, and that's about no damage. Going for CCNC, that's a little bit more viable here. He is a little bit softer. Chessie closing in fast with Moo as well, but pop the block guard on the Crimson and can't go for that any longer. Pycat behind them. Does have a Chronosphere armed and ready. He's going to be in an awkward spot behind this tier 2 tower. This OBS was placed. I think someone immediately pinged it. That might have been Complexity pinging. Pycat is itching to use this Chronosphere. Problem is that there is this OBS here, so they have to smoke in. Pycat has an opportunity for a 2-man Chrono, now only just a 1. I don't know if it's worth using Chrono onto just Chessie. He is still going to Shadow Blade forward. PPD charging in. Up towards top, it's Zai chilling in Sandstorm as Chessie going to start that spin. Zai takes quite a bit of damage, but he's still alive. And Chessie's going to get sent back to the base, so no big deal there. Z-Freak as well will be fine. And OpTic just can't quite find that opportunity to get in there. Good spacing for Complexity. PPD just very, very close. In fact, does have the Aghanim Scepter. And that vision, man, that vision is going to be huge. Of course, you also do get, all the uptime on these 2 additional abilities. You get the healing from the Illuminate. But in this game, when this is the main threat, that's when you really want to have that full flying vision. Of course, being able to D-ward on top of that is very nice as well. And I cannot believe he actually survived that epicenter. I thought he would just die to that. He's going to die, but he does have that Aghanim Scepter. Making sure that OpTic get the initiation off on their own terms with 33, with the Chronospheres. That's how they win these fights. Currently, the Complexity vision isn't super extensive, but Complexity definitely do need vision to enable Moo, and if you take off those Observer Wards off the map, then even the Disruptors it's a lot more difficult with those Glimpse plays. Top lane, Pycat's shoving, and over in mid lane, looks like we do have an Aghanim Scepter up on Z-Freak as well. So these quote-unquote supports, man, they're working with some pretty heavy farm. Including that Granite Golem, so a lot of HP. They're going to Burst Strike in, but the Chronosphere lands onto 2. CCNC is going to jump right in with the Siphons and the Exorcism. Static Storm is going to be in the middle of the fight as Sand King is going to be the first one to fall. OpTic, they're going to manage CCNC and Pycat very well. Get the kill on the SK. Dodge that Static Storm almost entirely. The Omni Slash is going to use it and then get sent back to the base. Kind of mid Omni Slash there, but you're invulnerable during the Omni Slash, so that's a safe play. Now Z-Freak hit with his own penitence. Stolen by Zai. And that Chronosphere, man. That Chronosphere with the perfect setup for CCNC. Just all the time in the world to get into position. Wasn't really on the best targets, but definitely caught Complexity unawares. And that Static Storm was used mostly to try to keep the Sand King safe from CCNC. Unfortunately, it was just off the mark.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And now they're looking at Chessie. Uh-oh. Spin TP. Pycat first hit bash one time. Okay, can't even hit him. Well, can't hurt first hit bash then, although DP does have a BKB, will dodge the Burst Strike with it and be forced to run. That's a 10-second, I think. 9 seconds. Into the Roche Pit. Again, this is the timing that Complexity has that OpTic simply won't. They don't need their big ultimates to fight, but there is going to be Illuminates coming in. PPD, it is going to be a Darkness Roche attempt as with a Blinding Light almost shoves Moo right into him. But he's going to just put that mischance, slow it down just a little bit. I don't know if they can go in. They're going to jump in instead onto the Chen, but Chen's not the problem right now. The Radiant do kill off Roshan with that Illuminate, actually. So that's a little bit extra cash there for OpTic. Chase is on, though, Moo. Only viable kill is that Centaur. I'm not really sure if he's viable to actually kill off. So they do get away with the Aegis and the Cheese. It's like a Cheese Shadow Fiend, Aegis, Juggernaut. But the cooldowns, they're up again. And in fact, Pycat might even get to that level 18 mark before the next fight breaks out. And it's, even with the Aegis, even with these Ancients, it is difficult to push up high ground up against a Coddle like this. A Coddle and a Faceless Void. This is a pretty ballsy move, honestly, for Complexity. Like, even threatening this push up against the Faceless Void is seriously brave. And the creep wave doesn't last long at all. I think there's one hero with a pipe, and that's Centaur on the other end, so the creep wave is just going to get insta-gived every single time. They're going to be on a very, very persistent clock here. Pycat is level 18 at this stage, and hell, he'll even go for a little bit of pushing of his own. Battle Fury will thin the creep wave very quickly, and he does have a TP back with really no way to mess with that from complexity, so they're going all in on this push. And into a coddle, this is kind of what PPD dreams of. This is the coddle dream right here. Like, hey, the enemies are just constantly pushing in. They do deactivate the backdoor protection, jump in towards that coddle. No, not enough damage, though. He will be fine. The jump back in for 33 wipes out the Aegis, and Pycat has teleported back. They do have the lift up, and they will Blinding Light the Juggernaut way too far back into the Radiant base. Omnislash will buy us the time. Now the Chronosphere drops, lands onto 2, and separates the fight entirely, so Chessie is all alone. Pycat even gonna be able to take down Z-Freak and Kit Trek at the same time. Chessie will be chased down, and now the chase is fully on. Limp, though, is Shadow Fiend, so he is very, very quick. They're gonna try to nail down some of these Ancients. Looks like the Granite Golem probably forfeit here. Even penitenced, if that's a word, which it probably isn't. But that was, again, inherently a really brave move there for complexity. Yeah, you have the Aegis, yeah, you have the cheese, but you don't have a creep wave to actually help that push. So you just gotta YOLO in and hope you find good initiation. But up the high ground, it's not quite gonna happen. And that Chronosphere from Pycat lands onto 2, cuts everyone off from that Juggernaut. Chessie at that point is helpless. Like, he can't do anything. Now the push is back the other direction. Now, this is also going to be quite brave from OpTic if they decide to try the high ground. They don't have their cooldown, so they have to fall back. But they take that fight in a pretty clear fashion. Unfortunately, can't get any objectives off of that. Can't force any buybacks, but in eliminating the Aegis from the Juggernaut, that's value in and of itself. And look at this. The first health item the Faceless Void gets. I guess he does have the 15 talent health. He has 1900 HP. That's not bad. Level 21 SF. Dude is very, very bulky, actually. Like, all these items are kind of overly defensive, even. The argument can perhaps be made. The OpTic side, they are doing primarily physical damage. Faceless Void, Death Prophet. The Stomp in does land the Kit Track. This poor Disruptor gonna be focused down first. Moose gonna land a pretty nice Burrow Strike in the background. Omnislash does go off, but again, it's kind of bouncing between one too many heroes and doesn't do that much damage. Pycat now gonna land the Chronosphere with the Cleave there as well. Juggernaut and Shadow Fiend both taking an absolute truck ton of damage. Here comes the Epicenter from Moo, but the BKBs are still up from OpTic. They'll wipe the cores, and now the Sand King is gonna fall last. It looks like Sandstorm trying to book it, but Pycat's right on his tail. It's a double kill for PPD of all heroes. And that is, once again, OpTic fighting just on the razor's edge of their cooldowns, but it works out. I think that Chronosphere cooled down in the middle of that fight. And Complexity, even though they do have all this durability, suffering from a severe lack of damage. Like, yeah, you're tanky and all, but Centaur's making his entire team tanky. Faceless Void with BKB, the Death Prophet with the same, and even Death Prophet, 2500 HP with a decent amount of armor, and not to mention Siphons. That's just good game. Again, the complexity issue, let's say, from what we've seen from most of their games, is that they have a really, really clear direction with what they want to do in their draft. And we've seen it right here now. Like, this draft from complexity, it clearly has a goal. It clearly just wants to hit this really powerful early mid-game timing. When you do have the Chen, you have this Juggernaut, you have the ability to jump in, get the kills, and then take towers. But they just can't quite do it. I don't really know if, like, falling back after that second Aegis was the play there. But it definitely seemed like they were lacking a little bit of direction. I don't know who's making the calls on complexity, but they definitely seemed like they were all kind of doing their own thing. And for OpTic, they just had to weather that storm. They knew that at a certain point they had the game in the bag. Like, Juggernaut, he had a decent amount of gold income, but this Shadow Fiend, he just doesn't do that much damage. At least not compared to what the team actually needs him to do. And for OpTic, they were just getting farm on everyone. So it's going to be a push defended here for OpTic Gaming here in GESC NA qualifiers. Guys, winner of this match faces up against VGJ Storm in a best of 5 tomorrow. So we'll see if compLexity can stay in it. I'm Mike Loris, and I'll be right back for the second game.